for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. Okay, let's see who's in already. Preliminal, Barry Taylor, QP, of course. Welcome, QP. Let's see. Ray Strickland, welcome. Lisa Vivian. You guys have been chatting a bunch. Shari D is in. T-Box. All right, that looks like all the main commenters. Carolyn Thranen, what's up? All right, so what's going on with you guys? Not too much. All right, let's get on with it here. Okay, so we have a lot more by Bob Boberson, plus a bunch that I've seen. There's a lot today, so I'll see if I can get through it. The other thing I just realized is we had our time change over the weekend, so I might be an hour different on some of the time zones compared to where I was. I'm going to have to look into that. I realized I was just advertising the same time, and it is the same time here, but I don't think that everybody else changes their time the same time California does. So there might be an hour difference now. Anyways, I'll have to check and see what London time is and stuff now. But anyway, sorry about that. The title may now have 1 hour off. But when I start like a couple hours before, when I program it in, I program my time, and so it should, at least the countdown should be accurate. Okay. Anyway, so let's get to it now. All right. The first one is this one. Bob Bobertson found this one. Apparently now, sometimes hot water freezes faster than cold water. That seems quite counterintuitive. I'm quite certain I've never heard of that. Hot water seems to freeze faster than cold water, known as the Mpemba effect. No, I don't think so. I actually did study a lot about, not a lot, but I did study about weird things about water, and there weren't many of them in the old days. Certainly never heard of Mpemba effect, named after the Tanzanian student who in 1963 noticed that hot ice cream mix freezes faster than a cold one. The effect was first observed by Aristotle in the 4th century BC, then later Francis Bacon and René Descartes. Mpemba published a paper on his findings in 1969. Unfortunately, the effect doesn't always appear. Cold water often does actually freeze faster than hot, as you would expect, but this Mpemba effect occurs regularly, and no one has ever been able to definitively answer why. Okay, so then a team of physicists, blah, blah, blah. So it's supposed to have to do with the molecules and how the atoms connect and that kind of stuff. It's all technical, but I'll scroll down real quick in case you guys want to pause and read it all yourself. Anyway, very fishy. I don't think so. Certainly never heard of it. But, I mean, I can't be sure, but there's been so many weird things with water, including that water is no longer H2O. I've covered that one before. I thought it was a density thing. Well, water does expand when it freezes, which is unusual, because usually when something freezes, it does not expand. Usually it expands when it's heated. So that's one weird thing that water has always had for me, but I've never heard of any of these other things. You just reminded me of a dream I had a couple nights ago. I dropped a bottle of water and it became frozen solid when it hit the ground. Scott Balow. Okay, I've covered this before, but this is something that showed up about 3 years ago for me. If you put a bottled water in the freezer and you take it out when it's starting to look kind of a little bit water vaporish around the exterior, but it's not yet ice. If you take it out at the right time and then you smack it with your finger, it'll suddenly freeze. You'll see the freezing come down like that. It starts where you hit it, but usually it starts where you hit it and where there's water, air at the top. It just scrolls down. So it's almost instant. It happens in like 2 seconds. So that's really weird for me. So it's almost like, the magic freeze effect. And it never did that before for me, so very weird. We actually been doing it a ton for the last few years. It takes a long time before it gets old. It's just really neat. So I've covered that one before. Your dream just reminded me of that. Random stupid dream. Yeah, maybe not. Because literally the impact of hitting it is what causes it to go off. Let me see if I can find that. I know I've covered this before. I can't remember what I called it. Sharply knock a bottle of super cold liquid water on the table and it instantly turns to slushy ice. All right, let's see if I can find a video. All right, this one probably shows it pretty good. Oh, come along now. All right, he's super cooling it with ice, but the freezer works just fine. So you have to get it to a certain temperature, apparently. I don't think there's a video. It just looks way more cool when there's a video. Here. Like magic.
Okay, so this is quite possibly the coolest thing I've ever...
I'm going to kill the sound because that's not important. All right, see how it turns? Just like that. I'm going to redo it. See, when he pounds it down, it goes. So anyway, yeah, that was not in my reality before 3 years ago. Super cool, literally super cool. In dreams, water is subconsciousness. Yeah, it could be. Have you heard the latest November 11th JFK Jr. is supposed to come back from the dead, as in he never died but will show up? November 11th, huh? I don't know who said that. I'm a little bit skeptical. And Dalai Lama has cancer. Well, that sucks. I mean, he's a pretty old guy, but... I've done that before. It's fun. You leave an unopened bottle of water in the freezer, and it'll freeze after you disturb the molecular structure. It does not have to... Yeah, yeah, okay. I don't know. I think that it could be opened. I mean, I don't really put bottles of water in that are opened, but I don't think that'll hurt it. Same thing I noticed with Gatorade. When you open it, it turns to slush. If you leave it in there long enough, it'll turn to ice anyways. But I'm curious when when you first discovered that, you guys. There's a weird video of a guy changing the hose setting on the HZ setting on his camera, and the water coming from the hose looks like it's frozen or going backward into the hose. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I'm having scarab withdrawals. Is he not putting up programming anymore? But it'll only freeze instantly if it's unopened. Really? Okay. Last time I researched it, I didn't see anything about that, but could be. All right. So anyways, that's not the main part of the show. The main part of this show is that weird, so hot water freezes faster than cold water. Sometimes. At least in this timeline it does. All right. This one is from KSP Crafter. This is just a really cool castle. It's called Mont Saint Michel, and it turns into an island at high tide, and I've just never seen anything like it before. It's really cool, so I just wanted to play some quick video here. Sound. But it's completely surreal. I'm quite positive I've never seen this video before. So low tide, it's got sand around it. High tide, the water even goes up onto the steps and stuff. We just didn't have this kind of tech before in my old timeline. They didn't have castles on the shifting sands like that. Anyway, absolutely beautiful. Let's see. Normandy tourism. So I'm assuming it's Normandy. An amazing natural show. High tides totally surround Mont Saint Michel. Not too much info on it, but yeah, I would assume that it's Normandy. Anyway, just beautiful. Did you hear Titanic didn't sink? It was rescued, towed, and everyone survived. That was on Scott Harrison's channel. Basically, the story is that they reported that at first. The newspapers reported that everybody was fine, and then the next day, it turned out that the newspapers had done bad reporting. That's the current timeline's weird story. So the Titanic did sink, according to the newspapers, a day later. I don't know. The whole thing is just weird. I don't even know what to say about the Titanic and that weird story. But yeah, it did sink still. I mean, but for 24 hours, they reported the reverse. I mean, unless it's changed again since last time Scott Harrison reported on it. Hot water freezes faster. That makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, go to that when my you can go backwards and read the whole article. It's kind of very scientifically dense, and it's a little bit past my pay grade on explaining that, but I was looking up the election results, and my state had already posted the results 7 days ago, like they already knew. Yeah, are you sure they just didn't put the wrong date up? Because that could have happened. But the other thing is there are polls, so some of the results are almost a foregone or bygone conclusion. Like I'm in California, so the Democrat's going to win, basically, if it's governor or any of that kind of thing. So yeah, we could post the results like 3 months ago, and it wouldn't change. I mean, I don't know, anything's possible and anything's weird, but cold water freezes slowly. Simon King, not anymore. And it's mostly ice after it freezes too. You can get a liquid out, a little bit of liquid out, but if you're trying to drink it, it's 3/4 ice. At least I got a free sticker. Yep. Yeah, I still vote though because there's propositions and things that I want to vote for that sometimes are close. All right, so there's beautiful Mont Saint Michel. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you should have been on a lot of posters before. I just can't believe that I never saw it. Okay, this one I did see quite some time ago, but the story has changed some now. This one was brought up by Bob Boberson again. He's been busy as usual. And in fact, I'm like about 3 days behind on comments. So some of his will have to come on next week because I also had so many already for today that I don't think I could get through anymore. All right, so the Tree Man. This one is, for me, a kind of a harbinger of some of the direction that we've seen the current MEs. This guy came out on TV as he had this skin problem where he grew these bark-like growths, and they said he looked like a tree, so they called him Tree Man. And they were saying that he had this immunity problem where he would become infected with the human papilloma virus and grow these bark-like growths. So that's kind of the first time I ever heard of the human papilloma virus making you grow bark. I mean, I've heard of tumors and things, but not, stuff that looks like fingernails and stuff. So, Now, when I first heard of this guy, they didn't know why he had this problem. They didn't know anything about it. He was the only person that had it to this extent. Some people would get like one little horn or one little tiny growth, and I didn't even surgeries. I remember the ones on his feet looking different. So there's just a bunch of things, just a little bit off for me that have changed just a little bit on this one. So anyway, I also just wanted to bring this one up also because this thing that he has, I'm just seeing more and more of it. And there's been a lot with the rabbits. And there were no rabbits that had horns before. And they used to make the joke about the jackalope, which was a rabbit with antlers. And it was just a joke. They don't really exist, but people would get antlers off of a deer and stick it on a stuffed rabbit and say it was a jackalope and try to fool people with it. Well, apparently now rabbits do have horns, but it's from that papillomavirus, and it's pretty extreme. So you can see these rabbits here have horns all over. And also deer get this, and they get horns all over. A fair lot of animals are getting this with the horns all over. And it was sort of started really by this tree man. I had never heard of all these animals getting these things. But in this timeline, it's pretty common apparently. Oop, there's another one of tree man. I'm pretty sure that's him. I'm going to visit this one really quick because just running into it now. Nothing there, apparently. Huh. Alright, let's try another one. All foreign language. Try this one. Ugh, there's going to be other skin conditions on there. Now I'm afraid to look at it. Alright, I think that's that same one. I think that's still Tree Man. Okay, anyways, and the point, though, is just that this papillomavirus, you're seeing, like, people with big horns sticking out of their head now. And I remember the first ones of that, and I had looked it up on Google, and they were just tiny little things, but they've been getting longer and longer in the last 3-4 years, 5-6 years. So this papillomavirus is basically becoming an excuse for people to have horns, among other things. It's just really weird. All right, so... All right, stream still looks good. So anyway, there's been a lot of documentaries about Tree Man, so some of you might have already heard about it. I just kind of wanted to bring it up because I've seen such a trend in that direction. What do you think about recreational marijuana being legal throughout the states? Well, from an ME perspective, I'll tell you that the attitude change on marijuana was very sudden, and this was before I knew about the ME. But I really did notice it went from a point where you didn't even talk about marijuana on the radio, and it was a horrible drug, and it was hush-hush. And then in a matter of just a couple years, suddenly it was no big deal. And people were fairly tolerant of it. It really shocked me at the time that there was such a sudden switch around. And I was getting a little bit more spiritual at the time. And I kind of had taken it as a sign that anything can happen and that society can turn very quickly on their attitudes. But I could not figure out what had caused such a rapid change. And so it still kind of impresses me how rapidly that has all happened. And now other drugs, I think, are going to follow, too. as far as it being legal, I don't think it's really going to change much personally. So many people already smoke it. In the states that it's been legalized, not much has changed really. So, I mean, there's been a little bit of an uptick on accidents due to marijuana in those states, but then there was a downtick on opioid use and accidents due to opiates. So, I don't think it's a big deal personally. They were able to remove some of it though, right? Yeah, we're talking about Tree Man. Yeah, they the latest story I read was that they had a lot of surgeries, they removed it, but they keep growing back, so they're trying to figure out how to control the regrowth. I didn't know extreme Easter trees were a thing. All right, I don't know what those are, so I'm going to run over here and check it out. Extreme Easter trees? I've never heard of them. Extreme Easter trees. Are we talking about Tree Man, or what are we talking about there? Famous Easter egg tree relocates to new tree in Saalfeld. Okay, well. Okay, anyway, I don't know about that one. You're soaking in it, oh Madge. All right, are you telling me that's not is that an ME? It's not there anymore? All right, it looks like it's still there. Have you talked about the spider goat? All right, you guys are coming out with all kinds of stuff. Spider goat. Ah, okay. I don't think I've covered that one. So just a lot of feet, I guess. Spider goat. Oh, looks like it lived. Oh, wait a minute. Vets don't expect it to live more than a week. I don't know. A lot of feet. You could still live with a lot of feet as long as your organs are all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 8 legs. Yeah, there's just more and more mutations now. I might not be shocked if this one lived. I was going to ask why you are on early, lost track of time, or a 1. Yeah, well, there was the time change here, so it might be an hour off for people in other time zones besides California. Rabies were horn in my timeline. Rabies made horns? Really? Yep, not in mine. I know it's real, but it looks fake. Yeah, a lot of stuff in this timeline. A diabetes med makes your junk rot off from the commercial. Sounds horrible. Nope, never heard of that one. I'm completely perplexed by today's live stream. That's the pic I remember of Tree Man. Yeah, the warts just look a little different for me. But, they supposedly in this timeline, he's gotten a whole bunch of surgeries and they keep growing back, etc. Are these deformations mainly focused on Eastern India? They just said that there's there's other people, but they weren't forthcoming and where those other people were. Male humans do lactate. Yes, I heard that one about 4 or 5 years ago. I was pretty surprised at the time, but um, I didn't know of the ME then, so I wasn't thinking along those lines. Okay, so we've got spider goat as done. All right, this one I can't say myself. This one is from Jashira Gleason. She remembers Shirley Jones of Partridge family, having passed away a couple years ago. So did she die for any of you guys? I just don't watch the stars that much, so I wouldn't really know on this one, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. Alive or dead? Do you remember her dying in the funeral and all that? Because she's still alive now. I feel like time slowed down since the time change, but pretty sure it's just my head. I don't know, time just gets faster and faster for me. Everything is like a blur. I think she did die for me, Scott Balo. Shari D says, nope. There are many smalls in the back of and below the ears now. We changed by 1 hour back last week, the UK. Okay, yes, we did too. So my UK time might still be right, but other states and time zones may not have done the time change thing. Last week felt like 2 weeks long for me. I wish I had an extra week in there. I just can't get anything done anymore. Lots of things look like they have been cut and pasted in this reality. One thing I've noticed is that old photos that experienced MEs, it really does look like kind of a not quite right Photoshop a lot of the time. It just doesn't look quite right. You could almost see where the changes were. All right, let's see. Okay, so that was that one. All right. This one, Bob Bobertson linked this, but he was basically asking a different thing than what I noticed myself. And what he noticed was that Pluto is now considered a dwarf planet. So he remembered it being a planet. And in this timeline, it was changed from planet to dwarf. But what I remember is it was a dwarf planet, and then sort of out of the blue, they said it's not a planet anymore. And they just said they didn't really, for a few years, it wasn't anything. They said, well, there's other ice blobs further out, and they're not that much different from Pluto. And so we don't think Pluto should be counted as a planet anymore. And it just wasn't anything for a few years. And then about 2 years ago, suddenly I heard it was a dwarf planet. And I'm not sure when it suddenly became a dwarf planet, but according to this timeline, and I know Wiki's not perfect, but it makes it sound like it went straight from planet to dwarf planet. And that's not how I remember it happening. And the other thing I noticed is Pluto has 5 known moons. I don't originally remember any moons for Pluto. I mean, it was so tiny, and it made sense that it didn't have any moons. But so it's got 5 now: Charon, Styx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. Now, I do remember hearing about Charon for a while now, or Charon, and then I heard Styx and Nix recently, but I have not heard anything about Kerberos and Hydra, so just weird. So that's one thing, spurred on by Bob Bobertson's thing. Okay, and then, so apparently we have 5 officially recognized dwarf planets now. So it's not just Pluto. We have Ceres, Pluto, Haumea, Make, or Make. I'm going to say it's Make, and Eris. And Ceres is inside the asteroid belt, so it's not out in the middle of nowhere. It's basically was considered a big asteroid, but now they're calling it a dwarf planet. So this one's just kind of, I don't know, perplexed the hell out of me. I don't remember when we suddenly got another dwarf planet closer than Pluto, but we do now, and it's Ceres. Let's see. There are another 6 objects in our solar system that are almost certainly dwarf planets, and there may be as many as 10,000 inside our solar system. Okay, so there's the 5. Now, I do remember them saying that there were probably large bodies further out past Pluto, but this Ceres thing is really throwing me for a loop. Let's see, let me look up Ceres facts here. Ceres is the closest dwarf planet to the Sun and is located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, making it the only dwarf planet in the inner solar system. Ceres is the smallest of the bodies currently classified as dwarf planets within a diameter of 950 kilometers. All right, so anyway, we've got 2 dwarf planets now, both Ceres and Pluto. I'm going to make a guess that Ceres might be getting bigger over time. Very interesting. Ceres has a mysterious white spot. Ceres accounts for 1/3 of the mass of the asteroid belt. For roughly the first 50 years after its discovery, Ceres was frequently referred to as a planet. By the end of 1851, 14 other similar objects had been discovered, and it did not take long before these instead became known as minor planets. Ceres was eventually reclassified as a dwarf planet alongside Pluto in 2006. I sure as heck do not remember there being another dwarf planet in 2006. It was just Pluto. Ceres is the only dwarf planet with no moons. I don't know, this whole thing is like spinning my head. I have never heard of Ceres, says somebody. Christina Gerald. Yeah, I heard of Ceres just a few months ago, and I was thinking it was one of the moons. There's a ton of moons that are making my head spin that I've never heard of, and I thought it was one of those. And I'm not sure if it's because they were just vague about it or if they really said it was one of the moons, but anyway, so apparently it's a dwarf planet. I mean, when did an asteroid become a dwarf planet? I don't know. I think there might have been a big shift lately. There's just a lot of little stupid things that I'm seeing different. Coyote skull shape. I yanked out another coyote skull to sell today, and the teeth structures changed quite a bit. One of these days I'm going to have to do a whole video on the coyote skull because I have a lot of stuff on those, and the teeth just keep changing. Weirdly, on the coyote skulls, the back teeth used to have a lot more flat molars like people do, and they've been becoming more and more pointy. They have almost no flat molars in the back now. And it's weird how they did it because a bunch of them for a while were flat in part on one side and kind of pointy on the other side. But slowly they've shifted over to being all pointy. And when I sell the skulls, I often glue the lower mandible onto the top because without the skin and flesh there, they don't hold together naturally. And there's running out of places to glue them because I used to put a big line of glue on the molars and then hold them together that way. There's almost no places left to glue the freaking things. So I really noticed it because of that. Mercury was the only dwarf planet. Mercury, I don't, that was just a planet for me. Video phone, 1960. Yeah, no, not for me, but that one. A lot of people have covered those weird old video phones and stuff. For me, it's went into dwarf planet a few years back. QP, that's when I first heard of it, and at the time, I just assumed that it would been recent. But according to that history, it went straight from planet to dwarf planet. For me, there was a big stretch where they just said it's not a planet, and they didn't have any other words for it. Oh yeah, I was gonna look up that. Last weekend I got my long toes back and missing the original toenail. Mine are still short. I'm still having problems with the small toes getting squashed during sports. It's been a couple weeks now. The side to side motion is squishing them. They used to be more at the end of my foot, so when I pushed off from the side, it did not squish the little toes because they used to be more like this, and now the little toes way back here, just it's mashing the heck out of my little toe. I'm not sure how to solve that. I think somebody said they got bigger shoes. I don't know. I guess I'll have to try it. The thing is, I've got 2 sets of shoes that, court shoes that I really liked, and I switched back and forth on them for like a few months now, maybe even longer, and they're very similar to a set of shoes I had before, which is why I bought those. And everything was fine for months. Now all of a sudden, both of the shoes squished my toes, so. Did you hear Pluto was hit and exploded? Oh, don't know that one. Pluto wasn't a planet because it isn't in linear orbit. You know, that's not the story they were giving on those. See if I can find that. They said size, I think. All right, let me see. Let me see what the story is here. Why is Pluto no longer a planet? Scientists began to wonder whether Pluto might be of the first of a population of small. Where'd it go? Of small icy bodies beyond the orbit of Neptune. All right, that is in line with what I remember. They found more, and it was the Kuiper Belt. Ceres in particular appeared to be larger than Pluto, giving rise to its informal designation as the solar system's 10th planet. I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. Under a radical early plan, the number of planets would have increased from 9 to 12. See, what I remember is they just suspected that there were bigger chunks out there. Not that they knew and were going to name them planets. Okay, this is what I was just reading. And this is a bit new for me. For me, it was just a size thing. But now, okay, in orbit around the sun, yes. This is what a planet has to be. Has sufficient mass for self-gravity to overcome rigid body forces so that it assumes a hydrostatic equilibrium, nearly round shape, and has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. I think that means that it sucked up all the neighboring asteroids and stuff. This nearly round shape, that's a little confusing because I think that it was saying that one of them isn't very round, but clearing the neighborhood means that the planet has either vacuumed up or ejected other large objects in vicinity of space. And they're saying that Pluto didn't do that. Okay, so there's nothing about the linear orbit problems. And as far as I know, well, I don't know what that means by linear orbit, to be honest, because linear means in a line. Anyway, so I haven't seen anything about it being in linear orbit, so that might have been a temporary timeline, or it's just something I haven't found. Video phones go now back to the 1960s. Yeah, that's crazy. And there's an unidentified planet creating gravitational pull yet to be named. Yes, they've been talking about that for about 2 years now. It's funny because they're like, but it's not Nibiru. Well, how do they know it's not Nibiru? I just think it's funny that everybody predicted that there was another planet out there, and they find one and they say it's not Nibiru. Like, well, that's the planet that was predicted. Ceres was discovered in 1801. Somebody's been doing some Googling. Gendit. Yeah. Yeah. You missed it growing up somehow. Linear orbit of Pluto must be an ME. Yeah, I think so. You might want to dig more. Let me just see what I can come up with. Linear orbit Pluto. Pluto's unusual orbit. See, I don't remember anything about it having an unusual orbit other than it was a long orbit. Oh, its orbital path doesn't lie in the same plane as the 8 planets, but is inclined at an angle of 17 degrees. Its orbit is more oval-shaped or elliptical than those of the planets. I remember the orbits being a bit elliptical. I do not remember anything about it having a 17-degree angle with the other orbits. Okay, so that's probably what you meant by linear orbit. But they're not using that as the definition at all since 2006 in this current timeline anyways. So, interesting. Yeah, that was not the case for me back in the day anyway. So that's interesting. Maybe the planets are not going to be in linear orbit anymore. I guess it's like in a flat plane is basically linear orbit then. I always used to wonder why they did all line up in a flat plane. But apparently now they don't. I know it was linear orbit that got it declassified for me. Okay, well, one timeline at least. But in the current official history, that was not an aspect. That's a new orbit for me. Yep. Cobb KO. Anyway, good night. Thanks for visiting. All right, so where are we at? We're done with that one. We're done with Shirley Jones. All right, this one's an interesting one. Who invented the light bulb? No, it wasn't Thomas Edison. It seems like everybody that ever invented anything now was not the real inventor. Like Darwin didn't invent the theory of natural selection now, and Edison didn't invent the light bulb. Remember all those stories about he had spent so many countless hours trying all these different variations until he finally found one that worked. Whoa! Well, according to this, light bulbs were in use long before Edison applied for the patent in 1879. British inventor Humphrey Davy invented an incandescent light bulb in 1801. So what is that? 78 years earlier, and created the arc lamp in 1809. And then going through all these other inventors. So basically, they're just saying that Edison now kind of made a better version and popularized it, but he never invented it. Now, I whole current timeline about how he wasn't the inventor is not right. Oops, looks like OBS was not sending signal. Hopefully you guys didn't get too much buffering. Anyway, so yes, Edison did not invent it. Let's see. Edison went on to make big buck from the light bulb, but Swan sued Edison for infringement and won. This is an interesting thing. Apparently now Edison developed it with another guy. He struggled with a solution at first, but with the assistance of Francis Upton, he had a breakthrough. His light bulb burned continuously for 13 hours. See, I don't remember this Francis Upton guy at all. And then, let's see, where did that Swan... Okay. British inventor Joseph Wilson Swan started experimenting with light bulbs in 1850. He demonstrated a light bulb at a lecture in Newcastle upon Tyne. That soon had the attention of the world, including Edison. Swan was awarded a light bulb patent only in 1880, the year in which the house in Gateshead, England, became the first house in the world lit by a light bulb. All right, so this Swan guy apparently was in on it too. God, I said to say he didn't invent it. In 1883, Thomas Edison perfected the electric light bulb, but that Humphrey Davy invented the light bulb. All right, so there you go. Edison totally did not invent the light bulb. I think we're going to just find that every famous inventor didn't actually invent anything. All right, my stream status is bad. Hopefully you guys are still okay. I've never broke a bone. Anyone else? Yes, I've never broken a bone either, to my knowledge. I did have a really nasty problem with my ankle, though, so I wonder if I broke something, but it healed, so whatever. Naughty Beaver had an awesome stream on Atlantis. I'm actually going to cover some Atlantis if I get to it. There's some Emmy. There's a whole bunch in the Atlantis myth that has changed for me, and one of them is it used to be the lost city of Atlantis, but apparently now it was this whole massive continent. So yeah, no, it was not a whole massive continent. It was a city in the ocean with some rings of land around it, but apparently now that's just a small part of it. Okay, so there we go. Who invented the light bulb? Okay, so who invented the printing press? It is a little known but undisputed historical fact that Johannes Gutenberg did not invent the printing press. The Gutenberg Bible was certainly the first mass-produced printed work. It was hardly the first printed work, nor was it even the first made using movable type. One of the truisms of Western history is that a German guy named Gutenberg invented the printing press, changing the course of... Keep saying that my stream is getting interrupted and then reconnecting, so I don't know what's up with that. Ironically, both computers seem to be working good, knock on wood. Yep, Gutenberg bites the dust. Sorry, Shari D. Buffering on and off. Yeah, I don't know what's up. All right, so Gutenberg's gone. Here's another one. This one's actually a big one for me because they always said that dogs, canines, do not sweat and they pant, and that's why we have to be so careful that they don't overheat because they don't have sweat glands. Well, apparently now they do have sweat glands. All right, these last batch were all Bob Bobertson, the light bulb one, and then this one, Gutenberg was Bob Bobertson's find, and now this one is Bob Bobertson's find. Dogs now have sweat glands. The most sweat glands in a dog are around her paw pads. You may see damp footprints from your dog walking in a hard surface in the summertime. Baloney, baloney, baloney. I mean, I've had dogs my whole life, and never once did they have sweaty footprints. This is complete hoo-ha. And I don't think it's even fully in this timeline because my dog doesn't do it. And I just know it's just wrong. They always didn't have any sweat glands, period. I always thought it was stupid that they didn't, and I thought it sucked that they would overheat so easily. But no, they did not have sweaty paw prints. This is like total baloney. So they're saying that they don't have a lot of sweat glands, so it's not very efficient. But still, they did not have stinky, sweaty, wet paw prints. Anyways, wrong. Sweaty dog paw prints. I'm just saying, no. Dogs, exactly, no sweat glands. Anybody who has a dog knows they always tell you they don't have any sweat glands. My dog seems smellier, so it makes sense. I don't know, does your dog have smelly paw body odor now? I hope not. Does anyone remember an Alaska triangle? No, I don't remember any Alaska triangle. Let's see, the Alaska triangle. There are so many weird things in every corner of this timeline. The mystery of the Alaska Triangle. No, and no. There are certain areas of this planet that seem to be magnets for missing persons and mysterious disappearances. There are more such anomalous zones to be found around the world. Perhaps one of the more little known of these regions, the vast expanse of the wilderness northernmost U.S. state of Alaska, Alaska's Bermuda Triangle. Ugh, blah, blah, blah. So what's the big deal? A staggering 16,000 people have vanished in the so-called Alaska Triangle, never to be heard from again. Many planes have also disappeared. It is said that since 1988, 16,000 people have vanished? Dang. Yeah, nope, never heard of the Alaska Triangle. I'm going to have to write that one down. Alaska Triangle. Come on, pen. Ha! Good find. Yeah, lots of weird stuff. All right, so back to the dog sweat. This one's an interesting one. So we also always heard that pigs don't sweat. That's why they've got to wallow in mud, because they don't have any sweat glands. So this one's coming up mixed. Some places are saying they have a few sweat glands, but they are not very useful. Other places are saying they don't have any sweat glands, and other places are saying they don't have any functional sweat glands. So I'd keep an eye on the pig sweat glands. I think those are in progress. Anyway, I still can't get over this dog one. I feel like I want to just keep talking about it. All right. Dogs now with sweat glands. The past present is being completely rewritten. Dog's sweaty paws. I just can't get over that baloney. I have heard the Bermuda Triangle moved. Is it that one? Well, the whole geography is moved, so I'm sure the triangle is moved, but Tim Epson's asking about Trump. I'm not even going into the politics. I suspect there'll be a lot of drama. This timeline has a lot of drama. Other than that, who knows? But yeah, I don't want to get into the whole politics thing. I think it's a dead end, and it just divides people. All right, so speaking of weird things, I just saw this today. I was laughing my head off. You've heard of Sasquatch. Apparently there's Sheepsquatch, also known as the White Thing, a woolly-haired cryptid reported across numerous counties in West Virginia, predominantly within the southwestern region of the state. Most sightings in Boone, Kanawha, Putnam, and Mason, with a surge in sightings taking place in Boone County during the mid-1990s. I have not heard anything about this. This is absolutely ridiculous. I did keep a sharp eye on all the cryptids. Back then, there weren't that many of them. It's a quadruped about the size of a bear with entirely white wool-like fur and long pointed head, similar to a dog but with long saber-like teeth and a single point set of corns, not dissimilar from those found on a young goat. All right, so Sheepsquatch interpretation. There's one. There's another one. 1994. There's all these. I'm just going to scroll through, and you can freeze it and read it yourself if you want. But anyways, ridiculous. I just had to laugh. Is that a mythological creature? No, it's supposed to be like Sasquatch. Like supposedly there were lots of sightings, like Mothman or something. Anyway, these weird cryptids are coming out of the woodwork. I mean, ridiculously. Poppy Elm, I did. I can't stop laughing. Yeah, I know. It's just getting so ridiculous. So you don't vote, I suppose, better off not, in my opinion. I vote, but I just don't want to go into the whole politics thing. Not on here. Animals are turning into dinosaurs. I don't know what they're turning into. Florida Everglades. No, it's somewhere in Virginia. The Virginia Sheepsquatch. All right, so that is just one page out of 3 pages of stuff. All right, I'm going to delete some of this stuff. Oh, you can see I was hunting for shelving units. Okay. Shoot. I should probably look at all of these. I don't think this is the one I was hunting for. America became independent in 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was signed. Now there's all this controversy about when it was really signed, and that one is a little fishy for me, but I can't swear to it. Congress approved the final version of July 4th, but the signing ceremony did not occur until August 2nd. I can't swear to this one. This one I was talking about, I'm not sure if I brought it up on here. There were 13 original colonies. I'm absolutely positive there were 13 colonies. Now they're saying there was only 12 colonies, and one of the colonies was just part of the other colony. So, let's see, what was it? I think it was Delaware was never its own colony, but rather a part of the Pennsylvania colony, until declaring itself an independent state on June 15th. So there was not 13 colonies anymore. Betsy Ross did not design the first flag. Americans commonly believe that seamstress Betsy Ross was asked by George Washington to help design and sew the first flag. This patriotic myth has secured its place in children's books, paintings, and school teachings, but in actuality, flag historians do not believe this tale to be true. So, Betsy Ross apparently did not design the flag. The flag did not appear until 94 years after the supposed event when her grandson presented the tale. Anyways, that George Washington had wooden teeth is now not true. I did hear about this about 6 months ago. So they're saying he did not have wooden teeth, that he used elephant teeth, gold, lead, and all kinds of other stuff, but not wood. So apparently dentures were more advanced in the current timeline. Paul Revere warned the British are coming. Apparently that never happened. Now the British are coming. It wouldn't have made much sense if he did, because most people in Massachusetts at the time considered themselves to be British. So most of the well-known Paul Revere story is fabled and appears to have been spurred by Henry Ward, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's just a poem, apparently, now. George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and could not tell a lie. Okay, that one was kind of a myth in my timeline, because there was no evidence for it. So I'll say that one was it. That the Constitution was written on hemp paper. I've never heard of that, so maybe that was true in some timelines, but I don't think that was the case in my timeline, but it's a myth in this timeline. The Liberty Bell rang out America's independence on July 4th, 1776. I do not know about this one, but now they're saying no. It was more likely that the Liberty Bell was rung 4 days later on July 8th, when the Declaration was read to the public for the first time, but this is unconfirmed. All right, I think that's it, but anyway, a bunch of weird stuff. Those are, it's Bob Bobertson, who I think he linked this one, but now there's other ones with the same, I think this is the same one, but it says I've never clicked on that one, so I'm kind of confused. All right, this one is an interesting one. This one confused me. I actually saw it, was it a couple months ago? September, yeah, maybe just a month ago. And this one made its way on Reddit. So these guys, this is the current creation of Adam. In my timeline, for a while at least, it was called Man and God, Adam and God, something like that. There's a number of changes here, and a commenter called Research 5D wanted to point out a couple changes. And one of the changes, we discussed this one, that there's like this sleeve here, but not here. This sleeve is different. It wasn't like this within the bare arm here and then a weird sleeve here. That just looks weird. We pointed out that last time. But what Research 5G noticed, and I do agree with this, is that in most of the images now, there's getting a real pink tone to the clothing of God. It used to be just like a pure snow white, but it's looking very pink in a lot of them. Sometimes it's a little pink, sometimes it's a lot pink. For a while, this area here, this is my observation. This was screaming red for a while, but it has toned back quite a bit. But now this has got very pink. So for a while, the ME was that this was screaming red. Now it's back to less red, but this one's pink. Also, this fold here is really weird looking, like he's got a bib on or something. There was not this weird fold before. He's got kind of man boobs now. Also, the hips have changed a lot. 5G, Research 5G was saying it looks like a woman's hips here now, and I kind of agree with that. There's something changed about the legs and hips on that one. I think he said woman's thighs or something. I agree with you. It looks weird. There's something a bit off. This hand of God's has just gotten a little bit lower since last time I looked. Another thing that I'm not sure if I've mentioned this, but I remember this being blue sky here. Very blue, like normal blue. And now it's like white. Like that white sheet look that's in the high Ceres clouds now. I do not remember this being white. So that's one other thing. There's this extra fold now in this green, whatever the heck this is, this green cloth. I don't remember this fold right here until just recently. There's also a difference in color here with these robes. I remember them being just this color, but now there's different purples and stuff in here. I don't remember this frilly thing out here. So there's like more and more of these cloths showing up. I don't remember all these, and these are pretty new, I think. So these are my observations with the cloths. So there's just something, I don't know what's going on. Also, this upper one was not so close that you would see it. I've already mentioned how this one has been coming closer and closer. Also, this was dark for a long time in here, whatever these things are. But now it's green and blue, apparently. So there's been this, especially in this one, there's been a lot of changes just in the last week, I believe. So very weird. Okay, so what's the other thing? Okay, this is the current man and God, or what creation of Adam, that they're calling it now. But so these two guys supposedly tried to emulate this by jumping in a swimming pool and in midair trying to emulate this look. But here's what's weird. Here is the image that they came up with, and they're saying that this supposedly looks like this, and everybody's writing about it like they did a great job. The thing weird with me, okay, this just came out like a month ago, but this reminds me of the old man and God. The old man and God, this guy's playing God, was much higher. There was a big distance apart, and I remember Adam being more beseeching, like he actually wanted to get to God. And this reminds me so much of the old one. And it doesn't look much at all like this one. Because, I mean, he should be like lounging and not caring, and he should be below Adam if they were copying the current version. Yet nobody's commenting on how this does not really look like this. Everybody's saying how they did such a great job. So I don't get it. This one extra confuses me. Because this one is supposed to be recent. This one was supposed to have been done after these changes. So are they just going by memory? If they're just going by memory, then why isn't anybody calling them on it? I mean, basically, they'd both have to be floating in the pool. One couldn't be way up here. So I don't know. That whole thing is confusing. I mean, look at the difference in the hand shapes and everything. Anyway, God's chest is so white. I don't know. Chemtrails cover up the sky so we can't see what's there. Yeah, I don't know. Is that chemtrails or is that just ME? I don't know how you know the difference. Edison for me and Tesla on light bulb. Huh. Yeah, no Tesla light bulb for me. It was Edison. Why God's dress is light pink. Yes, the pinkification. Unimundi did a lot of videos on stuff turning pink. Well, apparently God is turning pink now. The light bulb was Edison's greatest achievement. Yeah, that's what they always said. And Palau was the last trust territory of the USA. All right, for me, sometime back, Palau was a commonwealth of the United States along with Puerto Rico. Palau now is I don't remember what they call it, but it's not a commonwealth anymore. I'm absolutely positive that not Palau, Guam was a commonwealth. Guam was a commonwealth. Now Guam is not a commonwealth. So that's one thing that's changed. Now Palau plus a bunch of islands I think are a commonwealth. Palau. And some states are a commonwealth. And that was not the case before. There were no states that were commonwealths. 4 states are referred to as commonwealths from its aside from its associated territories, which include Puerto Rico and the Northern Mariana Islands, which are also called commonwealths. Yeah, so now Guam's not a commonwealth, but Northern Mariana Islands, which I believe Palau is in, and Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Virginia, and Massachusetts are also commonwealths. So that's new for me. And Palau is not a Guam. I keep confusing those two. Guam. I'm just going to do Guam Wiki. Because my mom lived in Guam for a long time, so I had to study about it so I could explain to people what it was. And it was a commonwealth. It's an unincorporated and organized territory of the United States. So that's what it is. It's an unincorporated and organized territory. No, it was a commonwealth. Guam and Puerto Rico, those two. I've never even heard of this term, unincorporated and organized territory. And no, it didn't change recently or anything. That's just how it was. And then the Northern Marinara thing is now a common. Anyways, I know it's probably super boring, but that changed. Thinker post, fist, forehead. Yeah. There was a number of people, I remember like this. People were saying it was like this for a while. For some people, it used to be like this. Now, like that. I don't know if it was like this for a while and I just didn't look during those times, but knees are different. Yes, I think so. Well, they would just say, they would say that they were all territories and it was kind of a vague term, but it was officially a commonwealth, which is a kind of territory. But now they have this other term I've never heard. All right, so shoot, I'm not finding my original one, so we'll just use this one. Ghost moons found in orbit with Earth. So now, the original one that the original article I saw said that now there's 3 moons, 2 ghost moons, and our regular moon. However, there is that 4th moon that we've discussed in the past. So these ghost moons are apparently like large hazy
With one of the
clouds
industry's
of
largest
dust.
catastrophe response teams, State Farm will always be a...
But they're calling them moons. So they've been here since the 1960s. This is not my original article, so I don't know exactly. So apparently they've known about these a long time, discovered them in 1961. Kordylewski tried to convince other scientists of their existence, but failed since his evidence was too faint. So what's weird is these weird cloud things actually orbit around like a moon. And they're called the Kordylewski clouds. They orbit the Earth at about the same distance as our actual moon, with one orbiting ahead of the moon and the other standing still at a Lagrange point. So one of the things that, this was from Keill 1, or Kyle 1, K-E-I-L-L 1, was wondering if maybe they'll eventually become more visible. This is kind of like the opening salvo in this ME. I'm pretty sure that these didn't exist before. How much longer our ghost moons will stick around remains uncertain, but they were found in the 1960s. Researchers believe they could dissipate in a few years. I don't really get that because they've been here since the 1960s, so they've been here 60 years, but now they could dissipate in a few years. I'm betting that they won't. I'm betting we'll hear more about these. That's my prediction. They don't say why they think they would. 60 years they've been here, but they're going to dissipate in a few years. That doesn't even make any sense. All right, so anyway, ghost moons. So we've now got our regular moon, 2 ghost moons, and that other 4th moon, which for a while was the 2nd moon. I think I've covered that one quite a number of times. This is how the Earth gets more moons, I guess. What is the name of Earth's 2nd moon? Oh yeah, Cruithne, however, Cruithne. Cruithne is sometimes called Earth's 2nd moon, however, it does not orbit the Earth and is not a moon. Yeah, whatever. I think eventually it'll become a moon. It's got a bean-shaped orbit that effectively describes a horseshoe and then can change into a quasi-satellite orbit. I don't remember the orbit changing last I looked at this. Cruithne does not orbit Earth, and at times it is on the other side of the sun. Huh. Okay, that's not exactly what I remember. Cruithne's, this keeps changing. All right, that's the current orbit there. Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's... Cruithne appears to make a bean-shaped orbit from the perspective of Earth. All right, that's a different orbit than last time I saw. Okay, so I guess basically it nope, that keeps changing. That's weird. I wonder what the size of it is these days. Dimensions. 3 miles. Ooh, it got big again. It's 3 miles again. Yeah, it was like 2 miles when I first heard of Cruithne. Then it was just like 300 feet for a while, and now it's 3 miles again. This thing just keeps changing, this 2nd moon. So anyway, we have our regular moon, we have Cruithne, and we have 2 ghost moons of clouds now. So try to keep up. It gets confusing. I feel very uncomfortable watching the night sky lately. Yeah, apparently you can see Andromeda now. You can see a whole freaking galaxy. And that was not true in my old timeline at all. I mean, you couldn't see that. Let's see what we can find here. It's kind of small, but you can see it. All right, so here it is. Galaxies you can see with the naked eye. The Milky Way now looks ridiculously creepy. And look, there is Andromeda Galaxy. We did not used to be able to see a galaxy with the naked eye. Nobody nopes. Driverless pizza delivery. Wait a minute. That sounds like a good invention. Now I can smell every freaking thing, and now in my ears I can hear 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Yeah, you know, the smell thing is not always that great because a lot of things don't smell good. I've definitely noticed that I can smell a lot more now, though. It's never true night. Yeah, it used to be black at night every night. I have not seen that in about a year now. It's been very gray. Has anyone seen these moons? No. Apparently, Kruthney can't be seen. Too small, only 3 miles. Driverless pizza delivery. Now you get a pizza ejected out the back one and it drives off. Oh, haha. No teasing. All right, anyways. We have a huge... Ugh, I hate it when it jumps. Anyone else felt drained recently? I'll tell you that for a couple weeks I just felt really kind of depressed and just, I don't know, just not really straight in the head. Like I just didn't feel really grounded or something. I'm kind of glad that's over now. Yeah, somewhat tired, but just kind of anxious over nothing. In general, there's not enough time to do much of anything. Yeah, it just seems like the days are less than half, like just getting started, and then it's over with. We have a huge light source all night to the west and south. The horizon looks in a perpetual state of dawn. Yes, Honey Anna Maya, I agree with you on that one. There's been also a lot of video of just weird, like, glowing colors in the sky late at night. If you look at some of the other just esoteric channels that don't really cover the ME, there's a lot of that coming out now. Seeing the totally purple sky, that was freaky at night. I've covered some purple sky stuff a couple weeks ago. Energies have been very weird. Yeah. Seems like I've finally gotten over the hump the last few days, but I have to just keep telling myself it's temporary because sometimes I get really depressed and I'm like, I hope it's going to be like this forever and it sucks and blah, blah, blah. But they always pass. So I have to just keep trying to tell myself that. I've also been eating and eating. Yeah, actually, I ate a ton this last 2 weeks. I was afraid to jump on the scale because I knew I ate a lot, but I didn't gain any weight, which is not like me because usually I gain weight pretty easy. All right, anyway, so where are we here with this? West Cuba, United States. Aircraft hijackings. Wiki. Aha, there it is. Okay, this one's from Bob Bobertson again. Another good find. We've kind of discussed this before about the ridiculous number of hijackings, but apparently this is just a list of hijackings to go from the United States to Cuba. No, from Cuba to the United States. They were trying to get out of Cuba. So apparently there's been like a jillion hijackings. 1950s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So, I mean, they're having, up in the 60s here, look at how many. I mean, they're having one every month or two. In 68, there was, like 2 or 3 a month hijacking. Look at all these in September. 2 men hijack a DC-8 from St. Louis to Cuba. Eduardo Costero hijacks a Boeing 727 from Tampa to Cuba. Well, so they're trying to go to Cuba? I don't know. It just... There was no way there were all these hijackings. Look at the numbers. So there's like... Every couple weeks there's another hijacking? I mean, there's no way. There's just no freaking way that there were all these. I mean, hijackings were a big deal. They were rare. They'd be like one every year or two max when I was a kid, and it was a big deal. Oh, I'm afraid to fly, blah, blah, blah. Now after this happened. Anyway, it's just weird. Spider's blood was red. Dang, I don't think I knew what spider's blood. I mean, everybody's blood was red, so that was the thing. Yeah, that's right. I do remember them saying that all living things needed hemoglobin, and therefore that's why all blood was red. I do remember that. So spider's blood would be red too, because I remember them saying that everything required hemoglobin. I mean, now we've got that blue blood of the horseshoe crabs and stuff. Let's see what color spider blood is. This timeline. Pale blue. Hemocyanin dissolved in the lymph. There are some blood cells, but they are for wound healing and defense against infection. There is no blood cells like the human red cells, which carry oxygen. Okay, so that's another blue blood. Interesting. Okay, so yes, I definitely agree. Because I actually checked into the blue blood thing, and it was only the horseshoe crabs last time I checked. Let's see what we have now. Let's see if we can find a list of them. All right, that's a different ME where people remember veins having blue blood unless it touched oxygen and turned red, which is now just a common misconception. All right. Let's see what else has blue blood these days. Oh, a bunch of them. Octopus have blue blood. There are some creatures for whom blue blood is the norm. All right, now, last I checked on it, it was only horseshoe crabs. They had the special blue blood. Now it's crustaceans, spiders, squid, octopuses, and some mollusks have blue blood. They have hemocyanin instead of hemoglobin. What animals have different colored blood? All right, let's see. Animals that don't have red blood. Yellow blood. What makes blood yellow? The yellow coloration is due to high concentration of yellow vanadium-based pigment, vanabin. The role of vanabin remains a mystery. All right, they're not saying which animals have the yellow blood. That's interesting. But it kind of insinuates here that sea cucumbers have it. All right, so sea cucumbers have yellow blood. All right, so we've got yellow blood, blue blood, red blood. See if we can find any. In animal kingdom, blood comes in rainbow of colors. Well, what other colors are there? Let's hear it. Okay, there's one that has clear blood. That kind of makes sense because we've got those see-through fish now. So what color are their blood? It would have to be see-through. Ocellated ice fish has clear blood. Lacks both hemoglobin and hemocyanin, leaving its blood without any color at all. Cold water can hold a lot more oxygen than warmer water. There's enough dissolved oxygen in these depths that the fish doesn't need an active oxygen carrier like hemoglobin. It also completely lacks scales. The ocellated ice fish. I'm going to just check that out and see what it looks like since it's got so many cool things about it. What does the ocellated ice fish look like? Nothing really exciting right now. I'm interested because calling it ocellated, and other things that are called ocellated have rainbow colors. So keep an eye on this fish. What is that definition of ocellated? I'm not even sure myself. I like markings. Ocellated means I like markings. Spot markings or I like markings. All right. Because this fish is pretty kind of boring looking. So they're calling it ocellated or I like markings. I'm thinking maybe we will see it start to match its name more clearly as time goes on. Keep an eye on that one. That one's an interesting guy. All right, so that's the clear. Okay, which one has green? Green-blooded skink. Uses hemoglobin to carry oxygen. The liver breaks down the used hemoglobin into byproducts such as bilirubin and biliverdin. Humans normally excrete these byproducts. The skink, however, seems to thrive with high levels of biliverdin in its blood, which gives the blood a green color. All right, so pretty much every color in the universe. Well, okay, so what do we've got? We've got green, clear, The other one had yellow, and we have blue. What colors are left? I think purple. Certain types of marine worms found in shallow ocean waters around the world have green and purple blood. All right, so marine worms have purple blood. Why some animals have blue, green, or purple blood. All right, so we've got purple, violet, marine worms, including peanut worms, penis worms, and brachiopods. All right, so those new creepy looking worms that look like you know what apparently have purple blood. Kind of ironic. All right, so what we don't have yet is black blood. See if any of them have black blood. Which animal has no blood? Oh, small ones. All right, I don't see anything for black yet. All right, so black and white. Let's see. See if any have white blood. Which insect has white blood? So all the arthropods have white blood. Huh. Cockroach blood is said to be white in color, but it's not exactly white. Anyway, so looks like all the colors except for black are accounted for. All right. Well, okay. Good find. Weird colored blood. I remember seeing a man that was hit by a truck. He was covered in black blood. Ugh. Anyway, we'll keep your eye open for black blood because we don't have any yet that I can see. All right. Didn't used to have this in my old timeline, but apparently islands have been... I keep hearing about this. There's one I covered a while back. Can't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't this Japanese one. I think it was by Australia. A tiny island off the coast of northern Japan has disappeared. Isanbi Hanakita Kojima. It was believed to be located about 500 meters from a village called Sarufutsu near Hokkaido. Okay, so apparently this little island was used as one of the territorial markers of Japanese national waters, and it's now missing. Suddenly disappeared. Nobody knows why. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I thought it was interesting because then also there was one where one just disappeared. I think it was by Hawaii. Okay, so this one was Jan Wemmel who saw this disappearing Japanese island. So that commenter, Jan Wemmel, good find. All right, but... A Hawaiian island just disappeared also. They're blaming it on the hurricane. We've had a lot of hurricanes, but I've never heard of an island disappearing. A piece of the United States has been dramatically wiped off the map after an island in Hawaii was washed away by a powerful hurricane. So they're saying that there was a lot of animal life on there. 11-acre island after comparing satellite images. And anyway, so this island is gone. It was probably 1 to 2,000 years old, and we were only there in July, so for it to be lost right now is pretty bad luck. We wanted to monitor island, so we are disappointed it is gone. Anyway, lots of just weird stuff with the islands and stuff lately. All right, and this is another one. This one, I never can figure out how to say it, but this commenter's name is Sapioit, Sapioit, and it is. Let's see if this one will come up. Notice that Shiva is a lot more out of the ring than he used to be. It used to be just this foot coming out of the ring, but now the hand is out of the ring, pretty much popping out of the ring now. So that's one change. I haven't seen a ton of changes in Shiva. One thing I have noticed, though, is just in general, Buddhas have this big, long ear now. So I want to say that's an ME for me. I was actually, there's a monastery where you can walk around on Sundays, and they have a big Buddha, and Buddha's skinny now. This fat Buddha is actually Budai, Budai, and always is jolly, and the regular Buddha is skinny in this timeline. But one thing I've really noticed is my old Buddha didn't have these big weird ears. See these ears here? So I was up at the monastery on Sunday walking around, and they have a giant Buddha statue, and I saw the ears. Look at the ears. They're huge. They look like, I don't know. I don't know what's up with the ears, but Buddha had normal ears in my old timeline. Buddha did not have giant, goofy ears. And if you look, it looks like the statues are all getting like that. A lot of them have this weird draping pattern of the, see if I can make this one bigger. Doesn't look like it. But yeah, there's a weird drape that's real common here. Here's the ear. See, again, huge, big, long ear. I don't know what's up with the alien Buddha ears. Let's see, we get some more of these. But yeah, I don't know. Look, even the fat Buddha, the Budais, have the giant ears. Oops, can't really see much on there, but... I mean, what's up with the monster ears, people? Here you can see the weird draping that they're doing. My old Buddha didn't have that. Giant monster ears again. Look at those. What's up with the ears, people? I think they've been growing out for a while, but suddenly they've gotten really long. And I saw this on Shiva, too. This is what's reminding me. Look at the ears. What is up? I actually should put that in. See if I can find the answer to that. Although he was no longer weighed down by material possessions, Siddhartha's ears were permanently elongated. I guess from his... weird. He wore heavy gold earrings or precious stones as a status symbol, and the weight stretched his earlobes dramatically. When he finished renouncing his wealth and discarded his jewelry, his earlobes were permanently stretched. Baloney! No, 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 no. No. That's just wrong. Okay, whatever. No. Buddha had bunches. So that's another, that's another commonality. Last week I talked about Shakespeare having earrings. So apparently Buddha had, I mean, how long earrings, big earrings would you have to stretch out your earlobes? I mean, girls wear giant ear things and their lobes stretch out like, a half inch max. I mean, they don't, What would you have to hang on your ear to stretch it like that? That's ridiculous. Gandhi was a bad guy in besties with Hitler. All right, do we have Gandhi and Hitler? Let me just see what's up with that. Wait, proper spelling of Gandhi. Gandhi is one of those ones that a lot of people think changed. All right, so supposedly they were letters to convince Hitler not to invade and stuff. So Gandhi's efforts through a series of letters to keep German dictator Adolf Hitler from starting a war. But he was also telling British people to oppose Hitler and Italy's Benito Mussolini by non-violent means. All right, so I'm not really seeing in the current timeline evidence that Gandhi was a bad guy. But, who knows what'll show up next. How are people going to sleep if moon is used for lighting? I would guess that we'll adapt. I mean, I don't have to have pitch blackness to sleep, so most people don't. The book that Edison info came out of no longer exists. I don't know what book that is, though. What, Hitler didn't want any war now? I don't know. A lot of dictators say they don't want war as they're building up their giant war arsenal and going to war and then claiming that they're the victim the whole time. So you got to be careful about that. And just because somebody says they don't want war. 9 things you might not know about Adolf Hitler. All right, let's see if there's anything in there. Whenever I see the things you didn't know, Adolf Hitler was almost Adolf Schicklgruber. Huh, okay. All right, this one's an Emmy for a lot of people that he was quite a decent artist apparently. On my timeline, there was never boo said about him being an artist. I've heard people say in their timelines he was a really bad artist, and he got much better in this timeline. So apparently there's kind of a continuum of art orientation in Hitler's different timelines. All right. I don't know. I don't see anything about him not wanting war. Gandhi had his wife killed. Well, that's not the same thing as having her killed. All right. Is it true Mahatma Gandhi let his wife die because he didn't want her to be treated with modern British medicines, whereas he used the same treatment on himself when he fell ill shortly thereafter? All right, so apparently one of her 4 sons, Devadas, wanted her to take penicillin. Gandhi refused. He is okay with her receiving traditional remedies such as water, but he refused her any medicines, including the newfangled antibiotics, saying that the Almighty would have to heal her. All right, so maybe this one's tricky because in those days, these were new medicines, and he probably didn't know much about them. So maybe he just didn't trust them. I don't think that makes him a bad guy. I think that does make him that he made a potentially bad decision. But Gandhi's face wasn't much of an obstacle a short time later when it was his ass on the line. Mere 6 weeks after Kasturba died, Gandhi was flattened by malaria. He stuck to an all-liquid diet as his doctor tried to convince him to take quinine. After 3 weeks of deterioration, he took the diabolical drug and quickly recovered. So, I don't know, is he a bad guy, or did he just see his wife die and then he stuck to his guns for 3 weeks and then decided that since his wife had died and he was getting sicker, maybe it was time to cave? I don't know. I don't know if that makes him a bad guy or not. I mean, we don't know what was going through his mind. I mean, so I can't really comment on that. I mean, was he thinking, screw my wife, you can't have any medicine, but I can? Or was he just thinking he didn't trust the new medicines? So yeah, I don't know. I think it's tricky when you're trying to think you know what someone was thinking. For some of these cases, I don't think it's very clear, and you can imagine it different ways, and there's just not enough data to really know. And maybe it's vague that way because in some timelines he's evil, and in some timelines he's good. Or maybe it's going to shift. Who the heck knows? It's so complicated now. All right. Oh, okay. I thought I covered this Darwin already, but I thought I covered it in a different stream, but I guess I didn't. All right, so I kind of mentioned this earlier, but in this timeline, Darwin did not come up with the theory of evolution. In fact, it was quite commonly circulated long before he came up with it, and all he did in this timeline was come up with a lot of examples of it, but he no longer gets credit for the invention of the theory of evolution. So, like, it was even bandied about in the Greeks and all these other people, the Chinese, the Romans. So all he's got credit for in this timeline is kind of delineating it better because he had a lot of examples of it. I've also mentioned in the past, for me, it was Origin of the Species was the name of Darwin's book. In this timeline, it's on Origin of Species is what it's all called. It was Origin of the Species, for sure, not Origin of Species, whatever the heck it is now. It used to be Origin of the Species. So anyways, so Darwin now did not invent the theory of evolution anymore. So everybody that ever invented anything now didn't invent it, basically. It just kind of seems like that's the trend anyway. And that was Bob Robertson found that one also. But that one, I'm sure that's not right. This is another Bob Robertson one. All right, this one's ridiculous. Now, we've all, I think most that follow the ME have heard about the electric cars in 1900 being invented a long time ago and blah, 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 which is ridiculous. But, it was kind of easy to write it off by saying that, oh, maybe there was just a few of them and they were rare. I'm not buying that, but, it sounds plausible. But apparently, and Bob Robertson found this one, 38% of American cars were electric in 1900. So that's a lot of freaking cars. In modern era, we assume the electric cars are new technology. But there was a period in America a long time ago when 30% of all cars were electric. Was it 30 or 38%? I don't know. But anyway, it's still a lot of freaking cars. By 1900 in the United States, 38% of U.S. automobiles, 33,842 cars were powered by electricity. 40% were powered by steam and 22% by gasoline. This information might sound like some crackpot internet hoax, but if you look at the pictures, you can easily see they are credible. The U.S. Department of Energy's page on the history of electric cars states, blah, blah, electric cars at their heyday accounting for about a third of all vehicles on the road. During the next 10 years, they continued to show strong sales. By 1912, there were 38,843 on the U.S. roads. Henry Ford and Thomas Edison were collaborating on an electric vehicle. Unfortunately, if not tragically, this project fell by the wayside. Anyways, yeah, no, not in my timeline. Sorry, guys. Very weird, very weird, very weird. I was reading somewhere in here, I think it was saying how women liked it because they started easier and they were more quiet and less stinky. Sounds like something I would like too, but no. Nope. All right, got that one. All right, now I'm through 2 out of 3 pages. Not sure if we're going to finish. I don't know. It's late. It's like 2 hours. I don't think I'm going to make it through. So I think I'm going to call it a day or a night because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's taking like an hour a page, and I've got another page. So that might, they're going to have to do a supplemental one or try to jam through a lot of them next week. We'll kind of see how it goes. I know there's a whole bunch of ones that I haven't looked at on my comments yet, so we'll see what we could do. How is the human body? Any changes? I haven't really looked really hard. I might have to check that next time. Oh yeah, there is one, but I'm going to do a separate video on it. I don't think it's a brand new change, but I don't think anybody's covered it yet. It's actually a pretty big one for me. But I think it changed like 2-3 years ago actually. I'm not sure exactly, but something changed about 2-3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. There was a battle and a Japanese invasion in Alaska. They bombed and attacked Canada and America, and even Florida was attacked. Yeah, not my old timeline. Yep, I'm gone 2 hours now. You're right. Hitler was a sick man, lots of drugs, sent him mad. T-Box. Yeah, even that drug story is sort of newish, and they just started talking about that about 8 years ago, maybe 6, 8 years ago. I don't dare talk about anything anymore. History, anatomy, and people's life have changed a lot. Yeah, you really have to check everything. I mean, even there's been a few times where I talked about in something that was an Emmy 2 or 3 months ago, and then the whole story had changed in between. So you almost have to check every ME like right before you open your mouth, almost. But I have not seen I have not yet convinced that Hitler is a good guy in this timeline. I mean, he's less hideous, but he's still hideous as far as I've seen. Hitler has Parkinson's now. Are you serious? All right. I got to look at that one. Had Parkinson's, I guess would be the word. Hitler and his Parkinsonism. Well, there's a new one. Hitler has Parkinson's. Psst. Research works have suggested almost incontrovertibly that Adolf Hitler suffered from Parkinsonism. Good find. That's interesting. The precise nature of his illness had always been controversial, and post-encephalitic and idiopathic varieties were the ones which were most commonly thought as the possible etiology. Non-flinching mental rigidity, extreme inflexibility, awesome pedant. All right, I'm going to have to go and find this in like English instead of scientific speak. Let's get one like this. He had a pronounced tremor in his hands. He had become blindly inflexible, unable to base on the reality of the situation in the field. Did Hitler have Parkinson's disease? So interesting. So before it was he was drug addict, and that made him crazy. Apparently now I don't know if the drug thing is still true, but he probably had Parkinson's. He said to me casually, had I ever heard that Hitler had Parkinson's? Murphy said, I asked him if he was reading the National Enquirer, and he said, what, don't you believe me? Yeah, anything, the whole reality sounds like it's from the National Enquirer lately. So a hand tremor that gets worse over time, usually starting on one side of the body and spreading to the other. You could also have a slow gait, stooped posture, voice reduced to a whisper, and dull stare. That description fits Hitler in his final years. Murphy showed that Hitler in the 1930s was a voracious orator who freely used both arms while making speeches. But as the war progressed, Hitler became a different man. By 1940, Hitler never used his left hand, which was shaking badly. Instead, he left it hanging by his side or hooked his thumb into his belt. One small bit of footage shows Hitler talking to troops and forgetting to hide the tremors. That's a Parkinson's tremor. I've seen it 1,000 times. So his hand trembled in a stooped and rigid posture. He had become an old man. So then he made stupid decisions in the war. Disease may have been a condition known as von Economos encephalitis, a swelling of the brain that can occur after severe infection. Right. I've not known of Parkinson's being caused by such a condition. I have not known of it being caused by an infection, actually. So that is also quite suspicious for me. The infection could have been the great 1918 influenza epidemic, which killed 50 million people. You know, this timeline is just weirder and weirder. It's just like... All right. Personality changes include obsessiveness, compulsions, and sort of moral imbecility that cannot discern good from evil. Higher rates of Parkinson's disease. All right. So apparently now there's a virus that made people evil and imbeciles and have Parkinson's disease. I don't know. So there's too many changes today. Sometimes it's just my brain just like doesn't want to see them anymore. Anyways. Okay. The illness Hitler had both created and then defeated the most criminal minds of our times. Okay, that whole sentence doesn't make much sense. But anyways, okay, so yeah, apparently Hitler had Parkinson's. Let's see what's up with the drug addict claim. Was he still, all right. So he still had a drug addiction, according to other people. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I don't even know what to think. So some people are saying he had a drug addiction. Other people said he's got Parkinson's. Whatever. Pick your reality, I guess. Yeah, no, there was no instance of him shaking or being silent. They did say he made stupid decisions in my old timeline, but none of that other stuff. Yeah, I'm coming up and past 2 hours already. Thank you. Definitely. All right, I'm really leaving this time. It's like over 2 hours. So it's time for me to sign off. So there I am. See, I'm like falling off of the screen as I get sleepy. All right, anyways, thanks for coming. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.